So the interpretivist perspectives of society are used to contrast the structural theories of society, so mainly the consensus and the conflict theories. And so when we're thinking about the interpretivists, we're thinking about the individual's experience of society. We need to know examples of them, we need to be able to explain them from a theoretical perspective, and think about the differences it proposes from structural theory, and also evaluate the effectiveness of this theoretical perspective and apply it to examples within society. Remember, we're looking for synoptic links in this 33-mark question, where we can link to education, families, media, and also crime and deviance too. So we've got an example of people influencing each other, being influenced by the actions that they take upon ourselves, and also in that they can choose how they want to present themselves and how they want to act in society. So structuralist theories differ from this in that they say that society influences the individual. In this way, we're saying that individuals make their own choices and decisions, and they therefore make up and influence society. So structural sociologists, we've got Marx, Durkheim, Parsons, etc., believe that society influences the individual. So you are shaped and moulded by the structures around you and the agencies or institutions. However, the interpretivist, interactionist, or social action theory, known in all those ways, are developed in response to the problems that have been highlighted with the structural theorists. So they criticised structural theory. They said that they were too deterministic. So they suggested that actions definitely occurred as a result of society, whereas the interpretivists are saying actually individuals make their own choices about what to do, how to act, and how to think. So we can't say that one thing determines another. They felt that the explanation of change wasn't individualistic enough. It was too dependent on the social changes and the structural changes. Well, actually the individuals made decisions and acted upon these things individually, and this has been overlooked. They believe that the research methods using scientific, so from a positivist perspective, were flawed and actually needed to take on more of an interpretivist perspective, using more qualitative techniques to find out a true understanding and valid picture of society as it stands. They also believe that cause has a variety of effects, so the cause of one thing isn't just linked to another, it can be linked to a variety of different things, so people's attitudes and opinions and behaviours. So, thinking about structure and action, we looked at these different ones. We said that structural functionalism is actually a structural theory, looking at how functionalists explain that society is stratified and has institutions. Humanistic Marxism was one of the neo-Marxist theories that came about as a result of the criticism of the traditional Marxist approaches. Symbolic interactionist is an example of interpretivist perspectives, suggesting that we all learn, interact and engage with each other using symbols. Phenomenology, the idea that all perspectives are true and valid. We all have our own perception of things, and each one is as equal to the other. And it's more of a postmodernist stance, but from an interpretivist paradigm. Structuration theory was that combination of structure and action in response to the problems that had been highlighted within structural theories. Ethnomethodology, Garfinkel's idea that we have this common sense view of society and the world, and we act accordingly. Scientific Marxism, again the idea of a neo-Marxist response to the criticisms of traditional Marxism, and then a Marxist feminist as another example of a structural theory where the feminists believe that inequalities in society exist as a result of the patriarchal structures. So Weber, thinking about structuration theory, thought that rather than having structure or action, we should have a bit of both. He believed that action is based on meaning for the actor, but it's also caused by structure in some cases. So sometimes we have the cause from structure, and the meaning is interpreted by the subject or the individual. So we're combining the two approaches. Max Weber based his work on the study of the Protestant work ethic. So in brief, talked about the changes in structure, the reformation of the Protestant belief system as a result of post-industrial revolution, so the structural changes as a result of the industrial revolution within society, but then the individual interpretation of this, the creation of Calvinism, with the idea that we worship God through working hard, and that was the individual belief and the individual support of that belief which resulted in Calvinism. So individuals changing the way that they see the society as a result of the structural changes, creating an action that meant something to those individuals. We have 4 systems of action according to Weber. So we looked at the key terms, definitions and examples. So we talked about traditional action. So we said that it was a routine, habitual action which requires no conscious thought. So things that you just always done. So like going for a walk every Sunday, matching up with a couple that just has always done that as a tradition. We have effectual action, which is the idea that people express emotions, so they might see something and it might make them feel a particular way as a result. We then have value rational action, which is working towards a desirable goal without the certainty that it will be achieved. So taking part in a religious ritual to confirm your place in heaven, but you don't definitely know it will work, but you keep doing it anyway just in case it does. And then instrumentally rational action. So this is the idea that you want to do things in the most efficient way of achieving it. So if you want to get rich quickly, you'll exploit people, like exploiting the masses, by giving them low pay for maximum profit because it's efficient and it kind of gets what you want as quickly as possible. And then obviously the picture in the bottom right hand corner is quite a critical stance on this. So criticisms of this is good because a positive criticism is that it uses both structure and action in its approach. However, Schutz criticised it negatively in its failure to explore the shared nature and meaning of society. So the idea that actually there is a collective conscience and people do work to achieve similar goals and the consensus is maintained as a result. So as you can imagine, this is more of a functionalist critique. It's also hard to apply the concept of action universally, where people interpret things differently, act upon things differently, and so on. So it's quite hard to apply that to all walks of life and all societies, temporally and spatially. Rituals can be value rational and traditional and effectual, so it could be something that is done to confirm your place in heaven. It's been done as traditional, so it's routine, and it also is something that fulfills an emotional need in people. And Weber fails to acknowledge that you can have more than one type of action, in assuming that there are these separate actions that people take. Also, Verstehen is hard to achieve. It's really difficult to get an understanding of an actor's meaning, and so all you're doing is finding an interpretation of that. So saying that an action is traditional, it's just something they've always done, or you don't know that unless you can get true Verstehen with that individual or that group of people, and it's quite difficult to achieve this, according to critics of this theory. So this is starting to look at the interpretivist perspective of society, looking at structuration theory and interpretivism in response to the critique of the structural theories.